All right, good morning, everyone. I think we are ready to go. So Leah, do you want to officially call the meeting to order? All right, Leah, can you hear us?
Your audio is definitely on.
Can you all hear me?
She says she switched her headphones and cannot hear.
Okay.
On the chat.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, she says okay.
All right, you got it? Awesome. Okay. Leah, do you want to officially call the meeting to order?
This is Leah Roseland, Chair, and we are calling the meeting to order at 8:33 a.m. Danielle, have you already read the information to get us started?
Danielle Bushcutter, Staff Liaison. I have not yet. So bear with me. We just got new meeting procedures, so this is going to be the first version of this that we're all going to be running through. So this does look a little bit different than last time, so please let me know if you have questions at the end of it, but it is a little bit longer. So here are the updated meeting procedures. So this meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and public access cable channel 25. During the meeting, when you are not participating, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found on the lower left-hand side of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. Muting your microphone during the meeting will make it easier for everyone to hear. You'll just have to remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. In some cases, I may mute or unmute people as needed to minimize distractions during the meeting. Please remember to state your name every time you speak for the benefit of those listening remotely. You can turn your video camera on or off by clicking the video icon in the menu. For purposes of this public meeting, when you are participating in the meeting, please keep your video on. But when you are not participating in the meeting, it is okay to turn your video off. You will still be able to listen to the meeting when your video is turned off. You'll just have to remember to turn your video back on when you are participating. Turning your video off when you are not participating will help make sure that active meeting participants can be seen on the screen. In some cases, I may turn someone's video off if they are not actively participating to avoid distractions during the meeting. You can always turn your video back on. If you are participating by phone, you can click *6 to unmute your phone. For those using Zoom, somewhere on your screen, you will see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker, and gallery view tiles all the meeting participants. Board members and city staff members must state your name and title each time you speak. All motions will need to be stated clearly. After a motion is made and seconded, the chair will call the board members individually to provide their vote. Chair, you will then need to announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. When public comment is sought on an item, individuals participating via Zoom should use the raise your hand feature. Windows and Mac users can access this feature through the participants button on the bottom of their screen. Android and iPhone users can access this feature through the More button located on the bottom right-hand corner of their screen. For those calling in by phone, you may dial *9. Individuals will be called upon by name in the order they appear on the meeting host screen. When you are called on, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The chair will then call for in-person public comment for those without access to technology options. Staff present will direct the speaker to the podium following social distancing and safety protocols. And the regular 3-minute time limit will apply. Any questions on that?
Danielle, this is Leah Roseland, Chair. I had a question for clarification. Did you say that we should all raise our hands virtually when we want to speak, or is that just for public comment?
Danielle Bushcutter, Staff Liaison, that's just for public comment. So you all are welcome to still use the mute and unmute feature like you have been, but please keep your video on as you will all be actively participating, and no need to raise your hand.
This is Leah Roseland, Chair. Thank you so much, Danielle. Are there any other questions, or are we ready to get started in the agenda? Okay, awesome. So my understanding is we do not have a quorum today, so we cannot take action on items, including, so the first agenda item is to approve minutes. So we'll need to table that to the next meeting, correct, Danielle?
Yes.
So moving on in the agenda, the next agenda item to consider approval of the 2020 outside agency annual report form is also an action item. Is the board interested in going ahead and reviewing and discussing the report form, or should we table this to the next meeting when we can all participate together?
This is Joda Totten, board member. I suggest we table it. I would like to hear Peter's input as well.
Yeah, this is Ethan Belshie, board member, and I would agree with that.
Leah Roseland, Chair. Thank you both for your input. So if Danielle is, okay, excellent. So we'll go ahead and proceed on the agenda to C2. Review the process for modifying Charter Ordinance number 33, and there's a link to a special item report, an agenda item report. So thank you so much, Danielle, for putting this report together. In looking, so let me pause. Danielle, did you want to provide some information on this? And then perhaps we can discuss it. Or would you mind presenting a little bit on the information included?
Yes, Danielle Bushcutter, Staff Liaison. I'm happy to kind of walk through the process with you all. So this came up at the, first came up, I think, at the August 21st meeting when we were really starting to go through the application process and taking the language that was in this Charter Ordinance 33 that provides the parameters for how we spend special alcohol dollars. And there was a discussion at that point that there was potentially some interest from the board about updating some of the language in this charter ordinance. So this ordinance was passed, I think, in the 90s. Yep, 1998 is when this charter ordinance was adopted. And so a request from you all to kind of talk about what that process would look like. So I wanted to kind of share at a high level what exactly this would entail. So this is the full process, but I'll kind of make the highlights for you all in my verbal presentation. But the short answer is yes, we are able to update and revise this language, but because it is a charter ordinance, there are a couple specific things that need to happen. So the first is that it requires a 2/3 vote of the governing body when this does go back before them. So that means that 4 out of the 5 commissioners would need to vote in favor of the change. We can't just use a simple majority. Once it is passed, it must be published for 2 consecutive weeks in a local newspaper. And after that, there is a 60-day protest period that gives people an opportunity to file a protest with the city clerk's office in the event that there are issues that are deemed problematic with the particular ordinance, so it wouldn't be in effect until after that protest period is over, assuming that no protest petition is filed. And then there's kind of a legal process we have to also go through then on the back end to make sure that a certified copy of the ordinance is filed with the state and some of those things. So those are that's kind of the high level process that we would need to go through, just to kind of make you all aware of it, that if you do want to kind of proceed down this path, obviously we need the feedback from you all about what changes you want to make recommendations related to, and then we're also going to have to get with our legal staff to make sure that we're not missing anything related to this process, and have them look at it before it were to be passed along to the City Commission for their ultimate review of it.
This is Leah Roseland, Chair. Thank you so much, Danielle. That was really helpful to further understand the process. Ethan and Joda, what questions, comments, or feedback do you have?
This is Ethan Belshie, board member. I guess my question would just be, do you, Leah, as the chair, do you have kind of a vision for where we would want to take the charter ordinance if we were to move forward with trying to edit it? Like, is there certain sections that you would identify as needing to be changed?
This is Leah Roseland, Chair. Yes, it specifically falls under Section 2, Item D, that explains how the monies can be used and allocated for special alcohol and drugs programs. And Item D specifically names law enforcement, prosecution, court activities, and programs or portions thereof related to apprehending, prosecuting, adjudicating, or monitoring individuals who are alcoholics or drug abusers, or who are high risk, essentially. So my proposal would be to, eliminate Section D to prohibit funding that is designated or with the intent of use for alcohol and drug recovery and prevention, to divert it away from punitive measures that would further invest in a punitive justice system rather than preventative trauma-informed programs for our community. So what are the board's thoughts and questions about that?
This is Ethan Belshie, board member. I would totally support moving forward with that line of thinking. I totally agree that if we are serious about helping people and using these dollars in a smart way, I totally agree that, punitive, we shouldn't be using these dollars to punish people, basically, is what I would say. So yeah, I'm totally agreeable with that suggestion.
This is Joda Totten, board member. I agree with all of that, especially since we're trying to maybe redefine and evaluate the purpose of our law enforcement within our community.
This is Leah Roseland, Chair. Thank you, Joda and Ethan, for your thoughts and feedback. It sounds like there's agreement amongst the board members here, and that we would need to continue this conversation into the next meeting and perhaps take it to a vote. Danielle, would this be an action item?
This is Danielle Bushcutter, staff liaison. It would ultimately, I think, my recommendation would be, based on that conversation, I can kind of bring back a revised version at a future meeting. I would suggest waiting and not doing it necessarily at your next meeting, because that's when you're going to be reviewing all of the applications, and it's an extended meeting, and I think you'll have enough to talk about during that one. But potentially bringing it back for that first meeting in 2021. And I can basically have a version of this where that language, you can see a version with that language taken out, and the version that currently exists. So I am happy to prepare that for kind of our first meeting in 2021.
Lucia Roseland, Chair. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle. It sounds like that first meeting in 2021 will be a good fit to discuss it, and we appreciate your work getting it ready for us. I did have a question about, since the Special Alcohol Fund and the General Social Services Fund dollars or process has been separated recently, I'm wondering if that the Social Service Funds also fall under the same charter ordinance.
Danielle Bushcutter, Staff Liaison. That's a great question. And the short answer is no, it does not. Those general fund dollars, we just released the application actually yesterday for those dollars. And it is being tied to our new updated strategic plan because they are just general fund dollars. So that was the nice thing about the general fund is that there's a lot of flexibility because you don't have very specific guidelines in terms of what those dollars can and can't be used for. So that is, I think, probably part of the reason why there were general fund dollars and special alcohol dollars, because these are for a very specific and defined purpose.
This is the Roseland Chair. Thank you for clarifying that. That is good to know. Are there any other questions or thoughts or feedback from the board before we move on?
This is Ethan Belshie, board member. I did just have one question. Do we have anywhere where we could see like an inventory of the current programs that are funded under this D section, just so we could get an idea of what's out there now?
Danielle Bushcutter, Staff Liaison. We do have all of the applications on our website that are funded for 2020. We don't have them broken out in these specific categories. Our application for 2021 is the first time we've really done that. But kind of talking broadly, there are really only 3 things that come out of the Special Alcohol Fund that have come out of there in the last couple years. So one of it, the biggest portion of that funding goes through this process, and you all make recommendations on. There is funding for a Burt Nash worker that comes out of this fund that works directly with our mobile integrated health unit with our police department. That is another expense that comes out of here. And then we also, for 2020, used some of these dollars for some safeguard training that the Willow Domestic Violence Center, I believe it's Willow, puts that training on. And so funding has been used out of this fund for that particular training. The last example I can think of that may relate to kind of Section D that was funded out of this fund was, I think, in 2019, there were some cameras that were on the CIP list for downtown, and special alcohol dollars were used to fund that particular project. So I think that's the last example that I can really think of that probably most closely aligns with kind of that provision outlined in Section D.
This is Ethan. Thank you so much, Danielle. That was really helpful. And I'll take a look at the applications online as well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Leah Roseland, Chair. Yeah, and hearing about those specific projects, it seems to me like although they might be working in coordination or partnership with some aspects of LPD, the programs actually fall under education, counseling, public information, or some other activity other than prosecution, law enforcement, and court activities. So I do appreciate Ethan's question, though, and think that it's really important that we take a look at sort of unintended consequences, and if there's any nonprofits that might, risk losing funding from such a change. I appreciate the intentionality around looking at that, so thank you. Danielle, is there anything else, or Joda, did you have anything else to add?
This is Joda Totten, board member. No, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to actually, and Danielle answered my question. We are going through the applications then on December 11th. Okay, thank you.
Danielle Bushcutter, staff liaison. Yes, that is correct. So those applications, just to expand on that a little bit, are due next Friday by 5 p.m. So I will do my best to get those up for you all as quickly as possible after that point, so that you can start reviewing those as they come in. So that December meeting will be the meeting that we have invited, although not required, but invited agencies to participate and give you all a presentation if they so choose. So that will likely be a longer meeting.
Joda Totten, board member. Danielle, do we know yet how many dollars we'll have to work with approximately?
Danielle Bushcutter, staff liaison. Not quite. We should be receiving another allocation in the relatively near future, but we will have that number for you at that December meeting, at least an approximation of what we think that's going to look like. But as we've mentioned, the revenue related to this particular fund has significantly been impacted. So we will have an estimate for you. We don't quite have it yet, though. So I apologize for that. The timing is not great.
Joda Totten, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Leah Roseland, Chair. Are we ready to move on? Okay. So moving on to agenda item C3, approval of the 2021 meeting calendar. Since we don't have a quorum, let's defer this to the next meeting unless there's, item D, any new business? Seeing none. Public comment, is there anybody for public comment? No. Moving on to item F. Well, actually, before we move on, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the City Commission, and particularly Vice Mayor Brad Chinkeldye for passing for approving I'm sorry. For continuing to fund at the same level the agencies that received special alcohol dollars in 2020. We really appreciate it. I know the board really appreciates the commission making that decision, so thank you. Item F, upcoming meetings. Our next meeting is December 11th, where we will review the applications. And is there anything else before we're ready to adjourn? Awesome. So the meeting is adjourned at 8:56 a.m. Thank you, friends.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.